Welcome to Lesson 4 of the Intro to the Classics course. Today we will be talking about the 7 wonders of the ancient world, not to be confused with the 7 wonders of the world. The 7 wonders of the ancient world were architectural feats recorded by ancient historians, writers, and scholars in the Western world. The list is limited geographically to the Mediterranean, the center of ancient Western civilization. The only remaining wonder in the present day is the Great Pyramids of Giza, which is also the oldest. The rest have all been destroyed by weather, war, or nature. Today we're going to learn about each one. Wonder number 1, the Great Pyramids at Giza. The pyramids are in many ways the most famous ancient wonder of the world. Whether that's attributed to their mystery, incredible feat of construction, or their sole survival out of all of the ancient wonders into the modern era, all people marvel at their magnificence. The Great Pyramid of Giza was constructed around 2589 and 2566 BC. During the reign of Pharaoh Khufu, it stood about 147 meters tall and its base was approximately 230 meters in length. The second pyramid was created for Khufu's son, Pharaoh Khafre, in 2558 and 2532 BC. Within the pyramids complex at Giza was the largest statue in the world at that time, known as the Great Sphinx, which was a man's head on a lion's body, standing 240 feet long and 66 feet tall. The last pyramid was built around 2532 and 2503 BC. For Khafre's son, Pharaoh Menkaure. It was the shortest of the 3 pyramids in this ancient wonder, standing at only 216 feet tall. It took over 2.3 million blocks of limestone, 100,000 men, and 20 years to construct the greatest architectural achievement in the ancient world. Originally, the pyramids would have been encased in a very fine grade limestone, giving them a white appearance and making them shine in the sun. Wonder number 2, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon are perhaps the most interesting of the 7 wonders of the ancient world due to the fact that nobody is completely sure if or where they existed. The gardens were said to have been composed of several floors, rising 75 feet above the Euphrates River. An innovative irrigation system drew water from the river up to the highest levels of the gardens, which featured a waterfall, marble pillars, staircases and terraces, trees, and a diverse collection of botanical plants. All surviving historical accounts of the gardens are secondhand and written hundreds of years after the assumed destruction of the gardens. Through many generations of oral history, the common belief was that the ancient structure was built by King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon for his wife, who missed the lush mountains of her home. Wonder number 3, the Temple of Artemis. The Temple of Artemis is believed to have been created in the Bronze Age, but was completely demolished by the early AD 400s. It is occasionally referred to as the Temple of Diana, Artemis's Roman equivalent. It was the first Greek temple built of marble, measuring 115 meters long, 46 meters wide, and 40 meters high. The ancient wonder was constructed in Ephesus, modern-day Turkey, which was an area prone to flooding. Around the 7th century BC, a massive flood ruined the temple. The Temple of Artemis was completely rebuilt by ancient architect Ctesiphon during the 550s BC. In 356 BC, Herostratus, a man seeking fame through arson, set fire to the wooden interior beams of the temple. The temple was once again destroyed until it was repaired by the Christians in Ephesus. However, the Christians eventually abandoned the temple. The temple slowly decayed until the only surviving remnants were a few pillars. Although not proven by historians, it is a common belief that some of these pillars were incorporated into the creation of the Hagia Sophia. The ancient temple was largely forgotten until the 1860s when a British archaeologist rediscovered the remains buried in Turkey. Today, a pillar marks the site where the great temple once stood. Wonder number 4, the statue of Zeus at Olympia. The statue of Zeus at Olympia, a 40-foot tall statue of Zeus in his temple at Olympia, Greece, was created in the 430s BC under the supervision and direction of Greek sculptor Phidias. The statue of Zeus is believed to have been made entirely out of gold and ivory. It was larger than the remarkable sculpting of Athena within the Parthenon. The statue of Zeus at Olympia was a major site of attraction for pilgrims throughout Europe and the Mediterranean looking to worship Zeus. The wonder was depicted in many ancient Roman and Greek works of art, giving credibility to its existence. Unfortunately, after almost 1,000 years of existence, the statue of Zeus was destroyed. A fire broke out, and due to the wooden base, the statue of Zeus at Olympia perished in the 5th century AD. Today, the temple lies in ruins. However, the statue's magnificence and legacy lives on today. In Washington, D.C., a modern interpretation is displayed to the world in the Lincoln Memorial, which was undoubtedly inspired by the statue. Wonder number 5, the mausoleum at Halicarnassus. The mausoleum was a giant, elaborate tomb built in Halicarnassus, present-day Bodrum, Turkey, for King Mausolus, ruler of Caria from 377 to 353 BC. The word mausoleum, which is now referred to any above-ground tomb, comes from this monument. One of the last surviving 7 wonders of the ancient world, the mausoleum stood for over 1,500 years, from its erection in approximately 350 BC until its destruction by successive earthquakes between the 12th and 15th centuries AD. At its prime, it stood 148 feet high and was adorned with colossal statues, sculptures, and reliefs depicting gods, goddesses, animals, and battle scenes. Wonder number 6, the Colossus at Rhodes. After a failed conquest by the Cypriots, people from a neighboring Greek island, the inhabitants of Rhodes built a memorial to their patron god Helios. The project began as a way to honor Helios with a bronze statue. However, as the project progressed, the statue became bigger and bigger and slowly became one of the greatest architectural achievements of the ancient world. The construction of the Colossus of Rhodes, the statue dedicated to Helios, was started in 292 BC by Chares, the Greek sculptor. The ancient wonder consisted of bronze and iron from old war materials on the island of Rhodes. The finished memorial stood at 157 feet, watching over the Mandrake Harbor. It stood over the harbor for over 50 years until a horrible earthquake occurred in 226 BC. The Colossus of Rhodes snapped at its knees and fell onto the shore of the harbor. Even with the statue's partial destruction, countless people came to witness its architectural magnificence. It was left as it had fallen for about 800 years. The people of Rhodes had considered rebuilding the statue, but they feared that the earthquake was an omen. They assumed that the statue had offended Helios in some way, and if they were to rebuild it, more destruction would be caused. Centuries later, in 693, a Muslim caliph named Muawiyah captured the island and stole the Colossus of Rhodes for materials. He melted the iron and bronze and sold the goods to merchants. The Colossus of Rhodes may have still been lying on the bank of the Mandrake Harbor if Muawiyah understood its significance. Thousands of years later, its impact can be seen in popular culture, most recently in the Titan of Braavos statue in Game of Thrones. Wonder number 7, the Lighthouse of Alexandria. The Lighthouse of Alexandria, also known as Pharos of Alexandria, was one of the 7 ancient wonders of the world. It was constructed in the 3rd century BC under the reigns of Ptolemy and Ptolemy II. The lighthouse took 12 years to build from start to finish. It was constructed mainly out of limestone, similar to the material used to create the pyramids over 20 centuries earlier. To put that in perspective, when the lighthouse was built, the pyramids were as old as the lighthouse is to us now. When the Lighthouse of Alexandria was constructed, it was one of the tallest buildings in the world, standing at 330 feet, 25 feet taller than the Statue of Liberty. The Lighthouse of Alexandria was eventually destroyed around the 14th century after being heavily damaged by 3 separate earthquakes over 4 centuries. The ruins of the ancient wonder can still be found in the harbor of Alexandria, alongside the ruins of Cleopatra's palace. There are potential plans for an underwater museum to be built in the harbor of Alexandria, so you may be able to see the ruins of the lighthouse for yourself. If you could visit one of these ancient wonders,